You gotta love it when a good plan comes together today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of Locked On Chiefs, your podcast from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you all for listening. We do appreciate it. Thank you for making Locked On Chiefs your first podcast that you listen to every day. We do appreciate that as well. Go check out another show, maybe like Locked On NFL. A lot of talk over there. We'll be talking to Locked On Jaguars later this week, getting you ready for the Monday night game next week. A lot to talk about today, though. Talking about the offense is rising to the defense's level. That is a fantastic sign for what is going on in Kansas City. We're going to do a deep dive into the game against the Baltimore Ravens, but we're going to talk about how this plan came together. But before we do, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Go check out our friends over at FanDuel. Next to me, and let's see if I can get this right. This guy, oh, look at that. Better than Ryan in that one. Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics, NFL 33, and RGR Football. I am Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner. Lots to talk about this Ravens game. Kansas City obviously gets things done. They get the victory. They move to 2-2 on the season. And as I said in the intro, you got to love it when a good plan comes together. And I have to say, looking at this game and looking at how this game went, I truly feel, and I've said this multiple times over the last couple of weeks, I truly feel that this is the offense that Kansas City envisioned for the first 4 weeks of the season, and they were just able to implement it because they finally had a semi-healthy Xavier Worthy available in this game.
Yeah, I cannot hear your intro or this discussion without hearing George Papard in my ear. And yes, I know Liam Neeson is more recent for you youngsters, but go back, watch the show.
You're old, it's okay.
Mr. T. It's perfectly fine. It's actually better, so there you go. But yeah, it's not even a full plan yet because Rasheed's not going to be back for a couple of weeks. Like,
right.
That's the best part of this is like you still were down a significant portion of your offense. And all of a sudden, you figured out how to make it click. Now, it was against a wounded opponent. Let's be real. We were pretty aware. We tried to prep everybody last week, but even for us, that they were worse off than even we thought that they were. So, yes, it came together. It did well. They have a ton of metrics that we have to go over because the turnaround from Brazil and the Chargers to Ravens in week 4 is crazy. Our friends over at True Media help us out, and we have a lot to go over. We're going to throw it in there together. But the truth is, the plan survived. Survived a scare with Xavier because he looks good as new.
He does, and it's crazy because you look at how he played, and I said this on the post-game show. You look at him going down after a 4 or 5 yard loss. That happens with any other NFL player. You're going to be complaining. I don't care. He can do it all season long. I don't care. If he can be out there and just be a decoy to some extent, because even on the plays where he didn't get big gains himself, he was enough of a decoy for everybody else that it opened other things up. And that's a big plus. So between him, Brashard Smith, and just looking completely different as an offense, I think that this team is moving in the right direction. And it's funny because you see all these people, all these, Chiefs X's out there posting people saying that the Ravens are going to absolutely destroy the Chiefs. And yeah, that didn't happen. No. And to be fair, I don't think I ever really felt like the Chiefs were going to get destroyed. I thought it was possible they were going to lose because of how poorly the offense had been playing. Sure. And because we didn't know what we could see from Xavier Worthy. But if we get that version of Worthy the rest of the season, I'll deal with that every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. And it allowed, we're going to look back on this and just for hindsight's sake, folks, I believe you had him at 14. Did you have him getting 14 wins when we did it preseason? I had him at 13-4.
Yeah, I can't remember if it's 13 or 14. I'd have to go back and look.
And we're going to get to that point where I feel like it's going to still end up being pretty close. I have not come off of that prediction at all. But we're going to look back and we're going to be like, okay, we were worried and for a good reason, but it allowed the emergence of Tyquan Thornton as well. because he didn't have to be that deep ball because Xavier got that yesterday. He was able to actually do something else that's important and play a little bit more inside. They got a slant into Hollywood. The plan is the plan is the plan. Yes, you have to adjust it, but as they get back, this is all setting up to just help Rasheed when he's back on the field too.
And I know we're focusing on offense, and I know we're talking about the plan, but we'd be remiss, and we're going to talk about this later, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, I think the plan is further ahead when you start talking about the defense, because Spags is always trying to figure things out in September. And at this point, I'm not going to say they've got everything figured out, but they have a pretty good idea of where they are as a defense and what they can do. They shut down the number one scoring offense and held them to 13 points. I don't care about that last touchdown. You have backups on the field. You're playing a prevent defense, not expecting to run. All it takes is a single missed tackle and somebody taking the wrong angle, and that's going to happen. I don't care about that last run. That didn't matter to me at all. Obviously, it'll matter in the scoring metrics for the season, but this defense has things figured out, and they still are missing 2 starters. That's the crazy thing to me.
And one of the numbers that I'm going to bring up in a little bit, I'm going to talk about that specifically because that's exactly what I thought in terms of it is skewing things because we're so new into the season. But you would also be reminiscent. And now that I think about it, if I think Andy talking with a cigar in his mouth, like the character from that show, I have to think that the guy that just goes out and gets all the new toys and comes up with shiny new ways to use them is Steve Spagnuolo. The guy that used to be on the old Galactica. Like, I don't even know the actor's name. I'm sorry, buddy. I know those are your 2 claims to fame, but like Spags got it done too. And the plan came together there as well. Jalen Watson is playing better than we saw preseason and enough to say that he should still be out there even when Christian Fulton gets his act together. And he's got to recover, but he's also got to play a little bit better as well. And Noah Williams is exactly what we had hoped he would be in the first quarter of the season.
Yeah, and you take it a step further, you still don't have Najee Johnson. And I know Najee Johnson, and I know a lot of people are frustrated about Najee Johnson, but the point is he's another player that they wanted on this defense. He's going to be able to give you some snaps that will be able to let you do some other things. And worst case scenario, he becomes a core special teams guy, and who cares? You're still better off than what you are right now. I think he's going to be coming back at some point in the near future, and maybe he's not going to be playing corner snaps for him a ton because Noah Williams, I agree. He has played fantastic from what we've seen. It's been limited. They haven't had to have him on the field much, but DeAndre Hopkins kept him from getting an INT. I really think Noel had a really good chance to get an INT on that pass breakup on the sideline.
Yeah, you'll get no argument from me. Now, what you will get arguments from me is just how deep we have to go into the metrics. There's a ton of that coming on the backside of this.
You know the saying, look good, feel good? The problem is that most dress clothes only check one of those boxes. They look sharp, but they feel stiff, hot, and high maintenance. That's why there's Mizzen and Main. Mizzen and Main makes classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel comfortable. They actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago, and they perfected it ever since. Their shirts are stretchy, moisture-wicking, wrinkle-resistant, and machine-washable with no ironing and no dry cleaning. I love that you can go from the office to dinner or even out to the golf course and still feel comfortable all day. It's the feel of athletic wear, but the look of professional menswear. Right now, Mizzen and Main is offering our listeners 20% off at your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com with promo code LOCKEDONNFL20. That's Mizzen, spelled M-I-Z-Z-E-N, and Main, M-A-I-N.com. Promo code LOCKEDONNFL20 for 20% off. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and you're going to get $300 in bonus bets if you win that first bet. That's right. You just make a pick. You put down $5, and you get back. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across their app anywhere that you want. FanDuel's app is the place that you want to go to get all this because it's all centrally located. I love the fact that it makes everything easy, and it makes so many different ways to play come right to your forethought. It builds parlays, triple player props, all kinds, even live lines during the ball games. Now, I know you wouldn't do that with the Chiefs, but you might do it on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. There's going to be Wednesday here eventually. Watching football makes it exciting. It gives you a little bit more if you have something riding on it as well. So what are you waiting for? Go out and visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started.
Deep dive on stats, and this is going to be kind of interesting because you were the one that went deep diving on the stats on True Media. Thank you very much for doing that, and thank you for True Media for helping us out. New stat service that we have, so there's going to be much more coming on that. But really quick, before we even dive into that, the one thing I want to say is you look at how this played out and you look at how the Chiefs offense did. Yes, we knew that Baltimore was hurt. Yes, they had their second string defensive line. I get all that. But Kingsley Suamataia having the best game of his young career, in my opinion, against the Baltimore Ravens still matters because he's trending in the right direction and exactly what you want.
Yeah. And like we said, for all intents and purposes, in terms of play on the field, Kingsley's a rookie. Yeah, he got a little bit of action for a game and 2 games last season, right? But the position change really resets him back to 0 in a quarter of the way through the season. And I'm still going to call it a quarter, folks. I know it's 4 out of 17 to 16. I'm still calling it a quarter because I just can't break that habit. But a quarter of the way through the season, he's starting to settle down. Now, did they have their ace pass rushers over his position? No. If Matabike had been out there yesterday, it would have been a different outcome. Let's be real.
Yep.
He gave up 0.
He's one of the best at his position too.
Exactly. The fact that you practice against Chris Jones a couple of times a week, and folks, I won't say it's every day because the ones don't practice against the ones every day. I hate to tell you, but the fact that Matabike would have changed things, okay, absolutely. But you only get to play against the guys that you get to play against. You don't control who lines up over you. He took care of business, particularly in the run game. He looked way more comfortable. I think that's kind of his natural go-to spot. But pass setting wise, I thought that he helped. I thought he looked great. I thought he helped Josh Simmons look good too. I know Josh got beat once that I've seen on rewatch. There might be another one in there. But the left side, the youngins are coming along. And that just goes to show that everything else that happened on the offensive side of the ball was absolutely due to partially the protection. Yes, the receivers were there, but that goes a long way. So what else stood out to you on offense? And then I got to give you some defensive numbers.
Imagine that, Ryan, wanting to get into the defensive numbers. I cannot imagine. You know, just watching the offensive line, Patrick Mahomes usually had multiple times where he had 3-4 seconds to throw before anybody even got close to him. Don't get me wrong. There's obviously going to be plays where Baltimore blitzes. They're going to send more than you have the ability to block, and that's going to happen. So it is what it is. But he still made plays when even that happened. But the thing that really stood out to me when you start going back and rewatching some of this, and I'm trying to remember who had this on X. I rewatched the play several times, but his first touchdown, I think it was his first touchdown to Juju, but he drilled that throw. He hit the top of his drop and absolutely launched that ball. And if you go on X, there's somebody that's talking about that specific play, and I wish I could tell you exactly who it was. But you watch. It is one of those scenarios where he has 2 guys within probably 4 yards of each other, and Juju's in the middle, and Mahomes still threads the needle and hits Juju. And Juju takes it and knows he's going to get hit, catches it, doesn't really matter, does what he needs to do, does his job at that point. And those are the types of plays that we haven't seen Mahomes make in the past couple of years. He doesn't usually try to thread the needle. I mean, he will, but not when you have 2 players converging that way.
Yeah, I agree with you. In that comes, again, with time and comfort to deliver the ball. Now, on the defensive side, they wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the defense. Let's be real. Again, a rough outing in Brazil. At this point, I'm ready to throw the Brazil game out because it doesn't look anything like it does now, and they've been able to correct in 3 ball games after. But right now, Chiefs are sitting at 8th overall on defense in points given up. If it isn't for that long one, they are the 4th stingiest defense in this league. If it isn't for that last-minute backup blunder, and that's what I will call it till the day it dies. That is significant. Now, you can complain about everything that you want to complain about. Everybody's thoughts and complaints are legit, and I totally get that. But if you look at it, opposing quarterbacks, 144 dropbacks, 81 completions, 66%. Not the greatest, right? They're averaging 6.4, but that's what's getting the job done is you're giving up just enough that you are able to stay in control. The run defense is not the greatest, but overall, they're hanging in there. Number 2 overall in the passing yards per. That's a huge development, especially when you look at all the young guys that have had to play roles in this team to this point.
One thing that you just said that I would think needs to be pointed out a little bit more. What did you just say about their run defense?
It's not the greatest. It is, I think it's 26th in terms of yards per carry allowed.
Right. And the reason I point that out is because if we see more of what we saw on offense yesterday, on Sunday against the Ravens, they're not going to be able to run the ball very much.
Yeah.
Because teams are going to be playing from behind, teams are going to be trying to catch up, and they're going to have to throw the ball to try to catch up. So that's why I wanted to point that out. They may not be great against the run, but also consider who they've gone against. They went against a Chargers team who didn't necessarily run the ball as much as we expected, but still ran it well when they did. They went against Derrick Henry, who is still Derrick Henry, and ran the ball pretty well when he ran it. So you faced off against an Eagles team that all they wanted to do was run the ball. Jalen Hurts shouldn't have even had 100 yards of passing that game.
Right. I mean, it comes down to the way that you play is what ends up getting you where you want to be. When you look at the scatter charts, it is very apparent that the Chiefs defense, in terms of success rate, this is what I'm really digging about it. When you get to mapping it all out, defensive success rate at 57.7%. That is sixth in this league. That goes huge. And here's the big thing. They're also, as of this game, at 57.7% in the red zone defense success rate. Most teams have a differential of at least 6 to 8, some of them 20 points difference. The Chiefs are the same defense right now in the red zone as they are out of the red zone. Success rate is something that you can get on True Media that I am very thankful for. Thank you for partnering with them. But that is the kind of thing that gives you insight into not just how something happens, but what the differences are in situational football.
Yeah, and it's going to be something that's going to continue to evolve as we see things go throughout the rest of the season. So we will see how these trends continue, how this defense plays, how the offense is playing. All of that's going to continue. And I'm going to be curious to see when we get to week 10, when we get to the bye week, after playing the Lions, who's coming up in 2 weeks. The Jaguars are next week, the Lions in 2 weeks, then the Raiders, the Redskins, and the Bills. I mean, the Chiefs have a tough schedule. Where are they sitting after all of that? Because the Bills have been the one team that has continuously had this team's number in the regular season. Not necessarily the postseason, obviously, but the regular season they have. So how does that adjust until week 10? I'm going to be very curious to see how this defense continues.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. But the offense has come a long way as well. They're doing their thing now, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. Where can it go, and can they match this defense? That's next. You guys have probably heard of Viagra or Cialis, and you maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond just the usual pill, check out Rougiet Go Long. If you're ever looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to get Rougiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rougiet Go Long comes in. It isn't just another ED pill. It's a total game changer for your confidence. Go Long combines 2 doctor-tested medications, as well as dual action formula that can help you get in and go to the distance. Effects that can last up to 36 hours. It's confidence all day, all night, even into the next day. The process is simple. You connect with a board-certified doctor, 100% online, and if you're prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly to your door. If prescribed, the treatment ships easily to you with no explanation whatsoever. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to Reugiet, RUGIET.com, and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 15% off of your first order. That's RUGIET.com, and use that code LOCKEDONNFL. Make sure you use the code so they know that we sent you.
Where does the team go from here? When you have a defense that is playing top 10, you are going to be in a great scenario regardless of how your offense is playing. Now you have an offense that is starting to look like they are rounding into shape. What do you think about what you saw against the Ravens yesterday, Sunday?
I was encouraged by a number of things that don't really pop off of the stat sheet. Yes, You got great performances from Patrick, from Xavier, even Kels. I thought was a really solid and looked under control.
Right.
And I like that. Spry, okay, I can go with that. That works. But when I look at it and I try to dig into the stats that matter to me, the difference for me was not just that they were able to kind of pull it together, and again, a work in progress, but that they were confident to go whenever they needed to do anything. With Andy going on fourth downs, if you look on fourth down efficiency, they are third in the league in fourth down efficiency. So I ain't scared. If they're going to have some fits and starts, I'm still not scared that they can get out of those drives and reset the downs. So I was really happy with that. And I think that goes to not just Patrick and the receivers, but it goes to the offensive line. It goes to everything starting to come together. And that includes Andy being a little bit more aggressive, running a little bit more downhill. They ran more power than I would like to see in terms of power classic, where there's pulling guards, where I just want to see flat, straight ahead, man blocking, duo blocking, and just get on somebody and attack the linebackers with the running backs as well. That's one more step that they can take, but I think that it was a solid step forward.
Well, you talk about that, but it also comes down to a scenario where when you're doing more of a power scheme, you're also going to be doing cutbacks. You're also going to be looking at doing counters, and it's a little bit slower to get to the line, which doesn't help your running the situation when you're looking at that. So I do agree with you. I think that it'd be better if they could get a little bit quicker and they were attacking more downhill versus, trying to push guys off and risk missing a block and or the running back hitting the wrong hole or not, following the blocker as he should. I mean, that's happened several times to the Chiefs. But I also think that when you look at how this offense is starting to adapt, you bring Worthy back, he's able to do a lot of things on the ground. Obviously, Matt talked about it. He was worn out after the game, and that's to be expected since he hasn't been playing. But it's also one of those things where you look at it and you're like, okay, now we have an idea of what he's going to be capable of, and we have 2 weeks before Rashee Rice comes back. They're going to be building towards that. But I think the next evolution of this offense is going to include somebody that we really haven't talked too much about yet, and that's Brashard Smith. Because to me, you saw him actually run between the tackles, and I think it only happened once, if I'm correct on that. I'm not 100%. But I wasn't expecting them to run in between the tackles pretty much at all this season. He's not really built for it, but they did it, showing that they're going to start using him in a different way than they have in the past. And that's what's encouraging to me, because he gives you a completely different skill set than what you have at the running back position right now.
I'm glad that you bring him up, because I'm glad that they got him started. And I don't particularly like him inside. But if you're going to eventually become a back that needs to be relied on in any play situation, then you got to be able to run inside. So you might as well find out what you have in him now. But there are two diametrically opposed stats here. And again, I got a little bit down the spider web here to get some of these.
Down the rabbit hole.
If you were going to give what you think of a couple of stats about how they run the ball, particularly surrounding contact, what would you say that they do well? Regarding contact?
Mm-hmm. Man, I don't know. When you started bringing this up, my first thought was the thing that drives me nuts when I see them running is they, like the Xavier Worthy thing around the end, was to the short side of the field. And that drives me nuts every time I see it. That's not what you're talking about when it comes to contact.
I like your
point. It does drive me nuts. Like, I'm just like, why do you run that to the short side of the field? But when you watch this offense and you watch how the running backs, I think that it's a question of how many tackles do they break. Is that kind of where you're going with this?
Not even that point, but that is a very good, it's an ancillary piece. I'll just put it this way. In yards per carry after contact, the Chiefs are in absolutely last place, 32nd in the league. If a player touches them, they basically go down. You know where they are in yards before contact?
Probably in the top 10. Number one in this league. Now, a lot of that is Xavier getting that big chunk, but Smith as well. And that's what he's starting to bring to the offense is, okay, if we're going to be on the lighter side in order to be explosive, and we're not going to have the run through contact that Kareem used to have and that Pops used to have. And honestly, neither of them are really running through for serious yardage after contact anymore. And maybe
That's the nature of the calls. We can get into all that. But if you're going to try to spice that up and hit chunks, you got to do it in any way that you can without getting into contact or blowing through it. And that's what Brashard Smith brings. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, and for a guy who likes the rush game, and I think everybody's starting to see how the league is swinging back to the run, the Chiefs have to as well. They're not quite there. They're not running enough, but they're running efficient as all get out. They are second in this league in first downs per rush, something I would never have guessed at. And they're also first in another rushing category. I can't believe that. But that's about rushing fumbles lost, and they haven't at this point. So they're doing really well. They are doing better than I could have asked for. Number 3 in rushing first downs in this league. So when they run, they're being efficient. And that's what I think is the basis. They just got to double down and not go away from it, Coach Reid.
I would argue, and I'm not saying they need to go away from the classic running game, but I would argue a return to Andy Reid's roots of using the short passing game or the swing game or the screen game would be just fine to up those numbers a little bit. They're not going to count as runs, but that's going to make this offense more efficient and more deadly, because when you start getting that screen game going, this offense is going to be a lot of fun because they're already able to start hitting stuff down the field. Mahomes has shown he can start hitting those throws down the field. Now, when you start taking and start attacking on the shorter routes and doing some of those screen routes that they have and that they've gotten so good at, I think it's going to really make this offense explode. And it'll help a little bit too, because generally speaking, when you're talking about those screens, you're talking about situations where the running back usually isn't getting touched for at least 3 to 4 to 5 yards down the field. And all that matters is you're getting positive yardage versus, getting hit at the line of scrimmage and going down. Because you're right, when you're taking a hit and basically going down right there, you're not going to be efficient and you're not going to be doing very well in the run game.
Yeah, you got to put it all together. And there's way more to go, and I've only scratched the surface of this. Folks, if you like some of this, leave us some comments and let us know what you're interested in. We'll try to dig that through. But in breaking this game down into a deep dive, a lot of positive came out of this, and it's not just what the obvious things were on the field. There are things that they can continue to build on, and they will. Tomorrow, we're going to talk with Matt Derrick about where the team feels it's going. He's going to give us his inside look. My favorite barber is up on Thursday. We're going to have our crossover with Tone Wiggins from the Jaguar show, and we will preview the show in depth both Friday, and we're going to give you our previews the following day as we have a special game coming up.
Yeah, since we have an extra day, which, you know what, I'm okay with, because at that point you're going to have an idea as to where people are in the division, and who knows where you could be in the division after that's over. The Denver Broncos, as we're recording this right now, have not played their game, so possible that they could end up being 1-3 after tonight, and then it's really just the Chargers that you're going to be looking at, and I think that Kansas City is going to be in a much different position the next time they play the Chargers. So really looking forward to that. A lot more to come on Locked On Chiefs later this week. That is going to be it for us today. Thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you tomorrow.